Well, earlier, unfortunately, I didn't turn the camera on. I wanted to go ahead and just take one apart and kind of do a thorough inspection without having the camera on, but I kind of wanted to show everybody, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of check these brakes. Went through everything, but right now I'm going to go ahead and get the wheel stuck back on. And then get around here to the other side and I'll show you. We'll go ahead and pull this other back one here. So you'll see me grab the wheel on the top and bottom. You want to do the, just even do an initial check of your bearings just to see. We'll go ahead and pop the wheel off here. Now, quick tip, I did find, and we'll see what this one looks like once I get in here, but I did find almost immediately that the wheel bearing in that wheel, and the first one I took apart earlier, the bearing was really tight, like almost too tight. So you're going to get a big castle nut in here, and then of course your cotter pin. So you pull your cap off. You could even get a screwdriver and just tap it around this lip and pop it off. Now, almost a half turn of preload on that. Me personally, I wouldn't take him any tighter than that right there. But I'm going to take him apart and check him here. To unthread your nut, your outer bearing will pull out or push out, depending on how you go about it. See right here, this is excessive grease that was packed in here. Now this is good blue marine grease, but that excess, alright, I went and got a flashlight real quick so we could see what we were doing. Not already wiped the grease out from around here, but there's some grease slip. You can see this dirt, this ring mark here on the inside. That's where the electrode rides that grabs. If anybody doesn't know, at your signal, your 12 volt, when the brakes are applied, it creates an electronic, it's like a magnet. The electronic magnet is engaged and it grabs and basically just drags on here, pulls the brakes. See, there's some grease already on that. So we'll wipe that off. That's step one. Now I went ahead and wiped the grease out of here, but I think there's just a little bit of excessive grease in the bearings. Mainly just packed down in the inside here. This will be hard to see. There's, I mean, just packed even in there. So you'll watch me here. I'm going to go ahead and put a glove back on and I'll pack this outer bearing back up. Remove a little bit of the excess. Also, there's a big discrepancy about the bearings that were used in these trailers. Now, there is a mark, a number, basically gives you an ID number of 15. 15. This will probably never show up on camera. 15123. There's also the make or the brand of the bearing, which is, I'm going to assume, a Chinese YXHT. Now some people have said about the quality of these bearings and having problems. I think majority of the problem is probably being overpacked. Inspecting these bearings, and I'm gonna say, not that I have a ton of miles on these, because I don't, but just doing my initial inspection. If you don't want to do this method, you could easily buy a bearing packer at the store, but you can see the bearing grease is smushing up out. The old school method here. These bearings seemed like they were packed pretty well. This marine grease doesn't look like it's bad quality, really. Doesn't look like it broke down with temperature or anything. So, like I said, some of this excess will get removed from the inside of here, because I see no reason for all of that. But I'm not going to replace the bearings this time. It's not worth it. hard to see here. Yeah, you can see that, and doesn't really look like a bad spindle or anything. It doesn't look like any other uncommon trailer spindle I've ever looked at. It is a looks like a 5 bolt backing plate. There's a part contract number. A bit of grease right there. I set my bearing back in after repacked it, but you could always slip this hub on and then push the bearing back in. So I'll just make sure it's seated back there. Okay, now alright, so you see when I took this off that I had to spin this with the ratchet. Easy. I'm going to say at least a third of a turn. So, me personally, this is where I'm going to leave them. I won't crank them the whole way like that was torqued, basically. These are a tapered roller bearing. They're not meant to have a tight preset. So basically, I'm just going to run this nut in until it stops and I have an alignment point snug. Some people will even back them off. This will have just a little bit of back and forth. That's how it should be. They were over torqued and should not have been that way. Take a good pair of side dikes and just trim that off. It ain't worth the aggravation. You probably couldn't see it when I took this apart, but it was bent in, just riding on the inside here. So that pretty much concludes that. Now, I don't hear them brakes dragging at all. Okay. Tap your center cap back on. Wipe it off. That's a good deal there.
Also, when you're looking, your butt trailer has a lot of casters, so we have the tires off and even when you're doing your pre-trip inspection. Just to see if, you know, sometimes these things are wear, they feel kind of lumpy, they wear funny.
So one more quick little thing, if you remember when I did this in the beginning, now this wheel has just a touch of play in it. And that's okay. That's how it should be. Another tip, need a 5mm Allen head to make changing these wheels easier. Initial thoughts on this side. Definitely have too much grease packed in this side as well. We'll go ahead and just move my tools out here. Definitely a different guy did this side, I can tell you that. Spindle. It's just I don't know if y'all can see this, and I hope you can in the camera, but my grease is brown on the inside of this race for some reason. It's a little discerning there. Let's inspect further in. Okay. So the rust. Oh, it definitely. Okay. Alright, so this tire and wheel. Wow. Hopefully y'all can see this the entire way around. You can see the dust build up back here. This is all grease and dirt blowed out of the seal. There's way too much grease packed in these things. Clean up this shaft here and inspect it. I'll spin this around. You can see how wet this inner seal is. And I can show you right here too. Right here on the edge, this is grease that has gotten hot. Alright, so first off, I'm going to rotate this around here and just peek in at the inner race. They were just so over torqued to scare me. Okay. So to give you all an idea here, the e-brake pulls in the back here, the twist right here makes that tight. Okay, there, I can show you. So if I pull on the cable, you can see it all move. Just like a car e-brake. Bam. Okay. Bingo. And like I said, I got rid of just some of the excessive grease. Just made sure the outer was repacked good. Cleaned everything up. Beautiful. Now that shouldn't get hot and blow the grease out now. Should be good to go. Tap the old cap back on. Okay, if you're still watching, thanks for watching this far through. Go over a couple of tools. Obviously, you need a 19 millimeter and a 5 or sorry, it's a 6 millimeter. Pulls the Allen heads off, pull the caps off the Black Series wheels. Then you need a 19 millimeter to pull the lug nuts off. Obviously, a torque wrench to retorque them, or just a regular lug bar, crank them on snug. Obviously, you don't want to like crank them and over tighten them and break the studs off. I would probably suggest somewhere in the 75, 80 foot-pound range. So, that being said, once you pull out the bearing cap, you need a pair of needle nose or a pair of side cutters to pull the clip out and then pull the 34 millimeter nut out. Now that's key important. You need a 34 millimeter socket to do this job. You also need a floor jack. We've seen I have plywood laid down, and I just moved plywood around with the jack on it. I have an aluminum OTC jack. I actually carry that in the truck with me because it's lightweight, easy, and it's a regular floor jack. And I just jack it up on the arm, as you can see here in this shot. So yeah, you see me pulling the bearing cap off with a big pair of pliers. That's just easy. You could stick a screwdriver, like I said earlier in the video, and pull that out. No problem. Here you see me bend the tabs up and pull this up, pry it out slowly. That way I can reuse it. So anyway, like I said, all the preload on these bearings was too tight. You see me just break it loose right there. That bearing is so tight it hardly even, you can see it barely spins. I have to loosen it up. The more I loosen it up, the freer it spins, whereas obviously it will. But I'll wind this off here, as you can see. Take it apart. Now, I did not go through my bearings completely, like I did not pull the back seal out. If you were to go, if you had 5,000, 10,000 miles on your trailer, I bet I have 2,000 miles on these, if that. So, now as I'm saying this and recording this, I've already towed the trailer another 1,000, 1,200 miles since doing the bearings or checking them. The inner bearing, as you can see here, I just cleaned everything up. The inner bearings all looked okay. That outer bearing that I was able to pull out, I only repacked it because I was able to. I didn't want to ruin these seals. I don't think there was anything wrong with them. Of course, there was nothing wrong with the brakes. The brakes all looked fine. They probably all needed adjusted up a little bit, and I think I did adjust them slightly afterwards. I just went around and wound the adjusters up. I just didn't do it on camera. There's a small slot at the bottom. If you have a brake adjuster tool, you can easily stick in there. You can get a flathead screwdriver in there, but it's kind of tricky. And you can see here, I'm going to clean it all up. Easy enough. This is not a hard job. It is messy. We need some rags, brake cleaner. I had a couple pieces of pig mat. You can buy a roll of pig mat at the auto parts fairly cheap. Just a couple of easy things. So, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Hopefully I have some more videos coming. This one's taken me a little bit to get finished, but thanks for watching.